everyone, thanks for joining us at Liminal for this yet another exciting episode of All About Blockchain, wherein we talk about everything under the roof of this dynamic world of Web3. I am Akanksha Sharma, Manager PR and Events at Liminal. Liminal is a wallet infrastructure platform for securing your digital assets. Our customizable plug and play wallet architecture helps crypto companies improve their operational efficiency and ensure the utmost cost optimization. Today, for this another episode, we are going to talk about a very important topic, that is power of partnerships in Web3. While so many projects are coming up in the Web3, but it's very important to notice that no company can work in silos. So the partnership is the core essence for any Web3 company, or I would say the entire ecosystem. For the same, we have a very special guest with us, Raghu Mohan, who's the co-founder of BuidlersTribe. BuidlersTribe is a Web3 native incubator collaborating with various founders and investors to create something new in the space. I would also like to invite and welcome our host, Laxmi Rathore, who's the Associate Manager Content at Liminal. Hi, Lakshmi. Hi, Raghu. How are you guys?
Hi,
Hi,
Akansha. Thanks for having me here. Hey, Lakshmi, good to be on this call with you.
definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Akansha. And thank you so much, Raghu, for being here with us. And today, indeed, we're going to have a discussion about a very interesting topic. And we're hoping that a lot of people would want to hear more about the topic, especially from you. And let's start with our conversations from here. So, Raghu, how did all of this start? How did you come up with this idea of building an incubator in the Web3 space?
By accident, quite honestly. So there's you know, people love quoting Steve Jobs, and I think for me, the one quote of his that really stays with me is that you can't really connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. And that's pretty much been the story of my life. I started my career at yourstory.com. I was a first 5 employees there. I managed the editorial team, and for me, I think the job description there was to write the stories of founders. So as you can imagine, I was addressing a community of founders there. Post that, I did a stint with Hacker Earth. Hacker Earth is a developer community which engages developers on hackathons and competitive coding competitions. So I manage a community of developers there. My last full-time gig was with Udacity, which is a community of learners who came together to complete nano degrees. So all my life, I feel like I've been working in community-based businesses. And you can imagine how Web3 made absolute sense to me. I started doing some freelancing work in Web3 and helped some projects raise money, manage communities for them, did developer relations, and a bunch of activities there. And quickly enough, what I realized is that Web3 or crypto, like it was called back in the day, was a community of people, of engineers who were putting together an engineering movement. And very few engineers were a part of it. So I thought the biggest problem that we could address was, hey, can we perhaps bring together a community of engineers and open up Web3 opportunities for them. I did this in the form of a company called Lumos Labs with my co-founder. And the company did 53 programs, which brought developer communities from all over the world to open up their opportunities. And these communities include Polkadot, Polygon, Near, Eternity, Streamer, and many more to open up grant and employment opportunities for builders in India. Along the lines, we found a lot of people who wanted to build companies. And I think up to 2021, there was no Web3 startup that came from India that hadn't participated in a Lumos initiative. But as we were working for the change, there was no meaningful way of working for the startups. So we spun off a company called BuildersTribe, which aim to be a decentralized incubator, which means a community comes together and invests and supports in a startup, and also the community makes the upside of that startup. So uh, that's what we've taken the journey of building. Me and my co-founder Marine, who was former head of growth at WazirX, came together and we built a Stripe together. And today, our platform supports over 1,000 startups. The platform itself has about 600 startups on it, and over 300 investors who are hunting for these startups, supporting them, investing in them.
Mm.
And our startups put together have raised over $16.75 million.
Wow.
So quite excited with what has happened. But to answer your question, if I hadn't done your story, Hacker Earth would not have happened. If I hadn't done Hacker Earth, Udacity would not have happened. If I didn't
Right.
do Udacity, Lumos wouldn't have happened. And if I didn't do Lumos, BuilderStribe wouldn't have happened. So it's just a bunch of accidents that led me to where I am.
Indeed. I mean, now I very much understand the first statement that you had mentioned, how connecting dots from the past is very important. Now I get the gist
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very interesting to know something about this, especially in a country like India, where you just mentioned that not a lot of people are aware of the Web3 area. Not a lot of developers, there are still our own. India has still like its own struggles with the Web3 space, and this really brings me to the next question, which is how different you think Builders Tribe is from the other platforms that are existing on a global space.
I think quite different and same at the same time. I think all the people kind of supporting Web3 startups have one intention in mind. It is to make the life of a Web3 founder at the absolute early stage a little
Mm,
better, right? So whether that is a Tachyon or an Alliance Star or an Outlier, all of us want the founder at the core level. Of course, there is economic endeavors in all of this, but at the core
mm,
level, we want the founder's journey at the absolute early stage to be a little easier. How we
mm,
deliver it is very different. Tachyon and Outlier still do very cohort content and demo day based incubator models. Our incubator model kind of cuts to the chase. We identify the key problems that a founder has and addresses them directly. And if you break it down, at the end of the day, an early stage founder needs two things. One is capital, and the other is knowledge. How can we make a delivery model that addresses just that, right?
mm,
Uh, and uh, and I think BuilderStribe is different in that sense, in the way in which we deliver that.
mm.
And so far, it seems to be working. Let's see where it goes from now.
All the best to you guys. I really hope you guys
Thank
do
you.
wonders with the Web3 space. Raghu, my next question for you would be like having founded a Web3 incubator from the scratch. How is your opinion has been about the Web3 industry? Has it evolved in the past couple of years, especially in terms of different regions?
Um, I mean, look at Web3, right? Like, let's assume that the advent of Bitcoin was the beginning of Web3. It has
Mm,
existed for a decade, right?
mhm,
And definitely it has evolved. I joined the Web3 ecosystem back in 2016, and I remember what it was about back then. Most of the conversations were about speculatory trading and figuring out ways of entering into digital assets that then, make money for you. I
mm,
think that conversation has dramatically changed. Today, the biggest press releases from chains and even exchanges, for that matter, is about the hackathons that they're doing, the accelerators that they're doing, and I think the focus has kind of come heavily into the builders, which
mm,
is very encouraging for me. Secondly, the majority of companies in this space, I think the signal to noise ratio is getting a little better. Back in the day, when ICOs were still a thing, uh, you had anyone and everyone being able to raise money without a proof of concept, with just a white paper, fancy faces on their website, and the retail would invest in that, and the retail lost because of that. Today, I think it's a lot more focused. A lot more VCs are involved as traditional due diligence in the
mm,
space that has entered. Secondly, I think the conversation around what is Web3 really needed for has become a lot more pertinent.
right.
I think people are asking a lot more questions,
Mm,
and answering it from a very first principles basis. That's encouraging. And I think the number of developers and number of people aware of the space has definitely increased over time. So, yeah, it has evolved for sure. Uh, are we there yet? If that is where the question was reaching, was kind of pointing towards, the answer is still no. Uh, I think that we know what the tech can do, and I think we have an idea of certain areas where decentralization is better, right? And
If
I
you
think
want to put up some instances, like what certain areas are we
let's say
getting
D,
to?
let's say DeFi, right?
Hmm.
At its base level, it's a contract that does the same job as a lending institution. I
Hmm.
take money from to you know I take money from people who lend, and
Hmm.
then I find the right people to give it to, and these are the people who want to borrow. Question is,
Hmm.
what are people borrowing for, right? Uh, at the best, what I've seen it is to borrow for more speculative trading. Is it primarily used for industry? It is used. Is it used for a buying a commodity, buying a car, whatever like that, right? Essentially, what loans are used for right now, and how are they paid back for? I think that we are not there yet, right?
Hmm.
How many businesses today take loan against their invoice using DeFi?
Hmm.
How many businesses today, how many people today would go to a DeFi protocol to take a car loan or a home loan instead
Hmm.
of going to a bank, right? Those
Right.
questions have to be basically answered. But does the tech work? Can a protocol do the same thing that a bank does? The answer is yes, right? So I think that we're heading towards it. We're slowly heading towards it. And you're already seeing applications that come in there saying, hey, we want DeFi to work for the real world. And this is
Hmm.
just one example, right? NFTs, for example. Apart from the feeling of being a part of a community and organizing it, what utility does an NFT serve? I think the biggest part about the NFT is the fact that it is non-fungible rather than the fact that it is a token, right? And I think we kind of overemphasize on the token part of it. Get the token, see its floor price grow, flip it on OpenSea, and then make some money. It's got to be
Hmm.
worth more, right? And I think we're headed towards a place where a lot more people are actually thinking about, okay, what can I use this for? What can this
Hmm.
be provided for? And why does it have to be decentralized? I think
Hmm.
that to me, that conversation is becoming
More
that
and more
a lot
mainstream.
more mainstream right now.
Yeah.
And every crash and every burn that happens in crypto of a large institution
Hmm.
makes almost always comes back to that question: why do we need Web3? What is it for? What do I need it for?
Yeah.
And I think my personal answer there is that I don't think everything should be centralized, should be decentralized. Some
Hmm.
things work when they are centralized, but the
Hmm.
ones that do need to be decentralized work better than it. Let us focus on those objects. Let us focus on those areas,
Right.
and do them better. So yeah, I think a lot more sanity has entered the market. A lot more builders are entered the market. Some of the smartest people that I know, my mentors from when I started my career, are in Web3 right now. So clearly, from a tech standpoint, it's exciting, and also from a use case standpoint, I think we're evolving. So yes, the industry has evolved. Are we there yet? Probably not.
We actually are taking baby steps, and while taking these baby steps, we are actually also figuring out other ways of using one thing, or other ways of using something that we were up until now just using in one single way.
Yeah.
So I guess that is really the future, having one resource and utilizing it in very different ways. So yeah, and because we were talking about the baby steps, because so while you were building, Builders Tribe, and when it was in the incubation stage, what were the biggest of the challenges, or even the tiniest of the challenges that you faced?
I have to kind of articulate my answer. I know what I went through, so I should be able to tell you.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm pretty sure it must be a lot of it to just
yeah,
say it in
I'm
1
kind
minute.
of distilling it down to like just 2 or 3 points, right? Like for the sake of the audience. But what I can start with is that I think the first question was, hey, where are we going to find startups, right?
Hmm.
And I think a little bit of the work that I've done at Lumos Labs helped. But my co-founder Pareen
Hmm.
is a master at kind of putting the word out, right? He handled growth at Wazirex, so I think he brought a lot of that DNA
Hmm.
into the company. And we participated in the right events, found the right partners,
Hmm.
built the right ecosystem. built the right funnels that resulted in the number of startups that came to us. So I think between that, we solved that first problem. Second problem is, how do we meaningfully help a startup? I think that for me was a bigger thing. I didn't want to waste the time of a founder, right? Uh, the founder's time is already like tight pressed. They're already going through so much stress. How do you be useful? How do you be helpful? And not come across as just another person giving you gyan, right? I think we really focused heavily on. A lot of it was actually just functional things that we could help a founder with rather than strategic things. You're living day by day, step by step, as an early stage founder. And how do you get the thing done? How do you move and do like the next activity is perhaps more important than what do you think about the market? How should you strategize this? What is the end goal and all of that? So I think more actionable insights, and we had a bunch of really good mentors along the way who came and helped our startups as well. So that was cool. And then third is, how does the incubator become sustainable? And that's a journey that we are currently on. It is something that I feel every incubator struggles with. Some like there are thousands of incubators in the world, but there is only one that is worth its name, and
Definitely.
that's Y Combinator, right? How do you be that for Web3? And that a large part of that has to do with sustainability, which means that the incubator runs itself, it's economically viable, and so on. We're working towards that. And I would say these were the three problems: find the startups, be helpful to them, and then make sure that the setup uh, is sustainable through a large part of time.
So as you were talking about finding and getting into in conversation with them, do you think that in the Web3 space, a strategic alliance plays a very important role, especially in terms of a project if they need to build up? And like, what are your takes on that?
Uh, I have takes on this. Like this is something that's pretty close to my heart, right? Like, and I've
Oh.
been partnerships is something that I've done quite extensively in every place that I've worked. Right?
Hmm.
What I've noticed is that a company is its people,
Hmm.
right? Uh,
Hmm.
of course, there are brands and how you perceive them from the outside. But a great brand company, and you meet a really bad person there, then that company becomes bad for you.
Yeah.
Or someone that is average, but you meet a great person there, and then that company becomes great for you. So the people in that company are the organization at the end of the day. And it almost kind of comes down to like team building. Who are my partners? Whom can I work with? How can I
Hmm.
provide value to them, and how can they provide value to me? And is this the right person I want to do it with? Right? I think that it almost kind of boils down to a relationship
Hmm.
for me. For me, Google was Amrit Sanjeev. It wasn't anyone else that I knew. For me, a company like Razorpay was Shashank Mehta,
Hmm.
and not anything else, right? Like, so for me to get in touch with them is that, hey, I like our vibe, we're vibing totally, and what you're doing is very complementary to complementary. And when you find that perfect alliance, what happens is that the um, company really you skip a lot of steps, right? In a good way, in that sense. What would have otherwise taken you hours of more time, that you would have to go find the right people, set up the right infrastructures, and set up that unit, by a good partnership,
Hmm.
you have reduced the time that it takes for you to get to the market. So it is true for business as a whole. And given that Web3 is more about communities than the
Hmm.
institution itself,
Right.
it is that much more prevalent here.
So, like, do you want to, highlight some of the strongest partnerships that you have had and people who helped you, mentored you, and how we see Builders Tribe today has been, of course, with the support of a lot of people and projects. So, you want to highlight on that?
Example. I could give you an example of say our biggest partner is Polygon, right?
Hmm.
And Sandeep and I have known each other for a while. I wouldn't say we're friends or anything like that, but we know each other. There's a distance between us, but we work together, done things together, done in programs together, and so on, right?
Hmm.
So there's always been that, hey, he does good work, he does good work. So I vibe with the guy, right?
Hmm.
And the second thing is, hey, Polygon has the most number of dApps in one
Hmm.
place. Some part of those dApps are going to be startups, right? Build
Right.
also is our product, is where these startups should house. So like, hey, Sandeep, what is your biggest problem? Shreyansh, what is your biggest problem? And he will tell you, dude, I'm understaffed and I've got so many startups to look at. I was like, this is perfect. I need to see those startups. Why don't you send them to Build also? Why don't you send them to a platform? We've got a very, very good filtering mechanism and a community that can support them, right? And Shreyans is like, yeah, sure, man, I like you. And I see how this is beneficial for me. Like the best startups will emerge from the deal flow that I have. I reduce my time in evaluating them, and you reduce the time for what it will take for you to grow, right? And that way, a good partnership kind of comes into place. Like Polygon is super strategic to us, right? And so is any other chain partner that we work with. Liminal, for example, is super strategic to us. Every time a company raises money, how do you manage that money? How do you save it? How do you store it safely, especially in the light of FTX, becomes so important for you, right? So essentially, I think it's about adding value to each other and then vibing with the person on the other side. It's not so much the organization itself. There will be cases where you can add value to the other organization, but if you don't vibe with the person on the other side, it's never going to happen, right? So between these two things, if you're able to find a good match, like what you can do is really reduce the time that it takes for you to achieve your objectives. And in the case of Polygon, that's what happened to us. We shot through the number of startups that came to us. We added value to them in the sense that we said that, hey, of the thousands of startups that you got, here are the 5 that are good. And you don't, you can look at them. So that way, Polygon also finds a lot of value. So yeah, I mean, alliances and partnerships is how business evolves. And I'd say, in Web3, it's even more. It's even more relevant.
Great. So, because you touched a bit about Liminal, so now I want you to shed a whole light on it, and I want you to tell more about it, especially to our viewers, that how partnering with Liminal is actually going to help the projects that are building with uh, BuildersTribe.
Look, I think treasury management, holding your funds securely, and then also having a way to transact with it in a seamless way is something that every founder goes through, especially if they're raising crypto capital. What is the best way to do it right now? I think there are a handful of solutions. Mahin, especially with the work that he's done all through his life, he's a veteran in this space, right?
Yeah.
And for him to articulate all those learnings into a product like Liminal is super useful for any founder that wants to that has just raised money. So at least from a product standpoint, it made a lot of sense for BuildersTribe to partner with them. But even more so, his knowledge of having seen how Web3 has evolved is now super useful from a financial consulting standpoint that our founders can get access to. So it was quite honestly a no-brainer for us that Liminal is doing this. We want to partner with BuildersTribe, and I'm like, hey, this makes absolute sense. And again, all our interactions with mine, I don't know if the audience has ever spoken to him. Super nice guy, and you will never know what he's done when you speak to him. But then when you look him up, you realize, oh my god, this guy's a big deal, right? So it's been quite a fun experience for us to interact with him, and then now to be working with him in the capacity of this program that we've just launched on Build. So it's quite exciting.
I very much agreed with whatever you just said, Raghu. Just because you are a building and you actually have built a very amazing platform for a lot of entrepreneurs in the Web3 space. Do you have any suggestions for them? Is there anything that you would like to tell them? Any advices, any tips, any suggestions, anything?
You have to earn the right to advise an entrepreneur. So I think I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet, right?
Okay.
So all I would say is that this journey is difficult, right? Being an entrepreneur is not easy. It is. I saw this meme which was super funny. The guys you've seen Matrix, Morpheus offers Neo 2 pills. One is a green pill, one is a red pill, and one is a blue pill, right? So the meme says that the red pill is 18-hour work days, and the blue pill is uncertain financial future. And Neo is the entrepreneur here who has taken both the pills. That is what being an entrepreneur is, right? Which is You don't know where this is going to go. And the best entrepreneurs that I see who go through this hardship and really go ahead and some of them are here right now with me in my home at my home. What you can see, which is very very clearly written in their faces, is that they love the problem and they really want to solve this. Right? It's not about the ego of working for yourself. It is not about the fame. It's mostly not about the money either. They want the money to run the startup. They don't want money for themselves. You can go to a job and do that for yourself, right? Like I feel like uh, this is the state of the entrepreneur, and it's very very hard for them to go through this journey. So first advice is to kind of hang in there, right? And managing your emotions is perhaps as important as your business plan. It's very easy to give up, and the people who persevere and stay on the problem are more likely to succeed. The longer you do something, the better you're going to get at it, right? And entrepreneurship is no different. The second thing is, Web3 is different in that sense that if you're building a Web3 product, know that it is meant to be given away. It is not something that you own as a business. And you give it away through the form of some sort of a token or some sort of a governance model. But the point is that you're building a network that people come together to run, as opposed to building a business that eventually accrues value to you, the shareholder, right? So, in that sense, I think there's a little bit of a paradigm shift that you're going to have, especially if you come from the traditional world. And finally, I think Google's old statement of "don't be evil" is super important here, right? And that's the only thing. You have undue power. If you get it right, it is your game to mess up, and you can misuse a lot of people who trust you. Being a good actor pays off in the long run much better than being a bad actor does paying you off in the short run, right? So I would say those three are the big things. Hang in there. Know that you are eventually building something that you're going to give away to a community. And then the third big part is don't be evil. Maybe you should make that thing come back and make it something that is in the mind of the entrepreneurs a lot more, because it's so easy to be evil here, and we should try not to be.
Thank you so much. I mean, it was really great talking to you. You guys are indeed doing an amazing job.
I absolutely now agree with you. I think, but as you said, like you are building a product which is not a geo specific, but something which is global and can benefit entrepreneurs and budding projects from across the globe. So that's the power that you are giving to the ecosystem. That's the power that you're providing. You're not just providing them with the platform, but also giving them a way to reach out to larger audience, and in the way hand holding them also. So I think it's true that the Web3 ecosystem has evolved a lot, wherein during the initial years it was all about the tokens or the projects, or um, about some exchanges. But it has evolved to the point that now people are thinking about solving some problems that are there in the ecosystem, and now building to solve these problems, like you rightly said at the start of this conversation. So it's actually an absolute delight to have you here today with us, Raghu. And thank you, Lakshmi, for being such a nice co host. I think all the budding entrepreneurs that are there would have learned so much from the session today. And those of you who are planning to build a Web3 startup, or you already have a Web3 startup, there's a great news for all of you. We have partnered with BuidlersTribe for this accelerator program, under which we'll be helping crypto native startup projects, under which they will be able to avail benefits worth USD 59,000 annually. If you want to know more about it, you can click in the description box below and get to know more about it. And if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to take a small minute to just click on the subscribe button and get all the notifications of all the new updates that we'll come up with. So thank you, Raghu. Thank you so much, Lakshmi. Any parting thoughts that you have for our audience?
I
No,
mean,
that was
yeah, please go ahead.
go for it.
No, I just wanted to say a big thank you. I mean, having a conversation with you was a total delight for me. And thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. I love being here. And anything for Liminal.
Thank you.
That's super sweet of you. So, this webinar aims to spread more knowledge and educate the masses about blockchain and crypto. So, if you want to talk about anything specific topic in our upcoming episodes, please do comment and let us know. We come up with new episodes every alternate Thursday. So, if you don't want to forget and know more about it, so please click on the notification bell. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day ahead.